Welcome, my listeners. My name is Stephen Kamore. If new here, remember to subscribe to continue enjoying more life transforming videos. In this presentation, I want to share with you on a topic, psychological safety in the church. This is a good insight for the church leaders and the church members. What is psychological safety? According to Dr. Amy Edmondson in her book, The Fearless Organization, she defines psychological safety as the belief that you won't be punished for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes. My listener, let us start with some reflective questions. Do you feel uncomfortable when church members speak up their mind as a leader? Do you fear to share your concerns or resist to asking challenging questions in your church? Do you avoid suggesting innovative ideas in your church due to fear of rejection? Do you feel fearful to challenge the unproductive status quo in your church? Do you openly admit mistakes and failures in your church? Do you openly express appreciations and disappointments as a member of your church? If your answer to the above reflective questions is yes, it is possible that your church lacks psychological safety. This presentation, therefore, will help you gain insight on how to grow your church by creating an environment of psychological safety as a leader. We have grown up in a culture where leaders are feared and not respected for what they know. It is a general observation that in many churches, leaders are feared for intimidating the members. Lack of psychological safety in a church has retrogressive repercussions. For example, members don't feel comfortable talking about initiatives that are not working, and therefore the church is not equipped to prevent failure or even stagnation. Psychological safety is key for learning, innovations, and growth. Church leaders, therefore, should allow members to voice their thoughts, ask questions, and brainstorm out loud in order to create a culture that truly innovates. In a psychologically safe environment, church members need to feel comfortable speaking up, asking questions, or even disagreeing with the way things are in order to create ideas that make a real difference. This concept of psychological safety especially in the church, was demonstrated by Jesus as the head of the church. As a leader, Jesus allowed people to freely express themselves through quality dialogue. Jesus allowed his followers and also those who opposed him to freely share their different views. For example, some Pharisees came to Jesus to test him and began to question him whether it was lawful for a man to divorce his wife. Jesus allowed his opponents to express their cultural dilemma without fear. If you read in Mark 11 and verse 28, we see the chief priest, the teacher of the law, and elders also engaging Jesus freely. And they came to him and they asked him, "By what authority are you doing these things?" They asked, "And who gave you authority to do this?" Now, if you look at the way Jesus related with his disciples, he engaged them in open dialogue and discussions. In other words, he was creating a psychological safety. When for example, in Mark 9 and verse 28, when he came into the house, the Bible says his disciples began to question him privately. Why could we not drive the demons out? And it is not only the disciples that Jesus engaged. He also created an environment of psychological safety even for his followers and the people he encountered. Read further Mark 10 and verse 51. This is the story of the brideman. And Jesus gave him an opportunity to freely express his needs. The Bible records the question that Jesus asked this brideman: "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus asked him, and the brideman freely said to him, "Rabbi, I want to see." Now, there are very many incidences in the Bible where we see Jesus as a leader engaging his followers and the people he interacted with during his ministry by creating an environment of psychological safety. He even allowed his disciples to freely experiment and learn from failures without him. A very good example is this incident that is recorded in the book of Matthew 17 to 20, where Jesus sent these people to go and heal a demon-possessed boy. This was like an experiment. He never went with them. He wanted them to learn. And therefore, when they came back, they were frustrated and freely they engaged with their master and asked him, "Why did we not succeed in healing the man?" This is what happens when leaders create an environment of psychological safety in the church. People are able to experiment many things, and when they fail, they don't feel condemned. They can come back and inquire for more mentorship and advice from the church leaders. For us listeners to be able to understand deeper this principle or concept of psychological safety, I want us to look at categories of psychological safety. These categories are drawn from a book entitled Stages of Psychological Safety, authored by Dr. Timothy Clark. He identifies 4 categories of psychological safety. Now, these categories are a practical, hands-on guide that shows leaders how to build psychological safety in their churches, creating an environment where members feel included, fully engaged, and encouraged to continue their best efforts and ideas. The category number 1 is what we call inclusion safety. Inclusion safety, my listeners, satisfies members' basic human need to connect and belong. Jesus applied this principle of inclusion during his ministry as a leader. Jesus was the perfect example of valuing and including others. When he chose his disciples, for example, he didn't pay attention to their status, to their wealth, or even possession. For example, my listener, Luke was a doctor. He was learned and he was a professional. But look at somebody like Peter. The Bible says he had not even gone to school. He was merely a fisherman. But Jesus made them feel inclusive. He made them feel that they belong to his team. He also valued the Samaritan woman at the well, testifying to her of his divinity in spite of how the Jews looked down on Samaritans. You can read this one in the book of John, chapter 4. Look at the way he accepted Zacchaeus, the tax collector. And we know among the Jews, tax collectors were treated as outcasts. So, in a simple way, Jesus made sure that everybody who joined him or whom followed him felt included. He felt a sense of belonging. And that there is one verse I love, and that God does not look at or does not respect us as individuals, but he focuses on our hearts. You can read this one in the book of 1 Samuel 16 and verse 7. What does the Bible say? But the Lord said to Samuel, do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. For the Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. And therefore, on this category of psychological safety, leaders should make it safe for the church members to know that they are valued, to know they are fairly treated, to feel that their ideas and experience matters, to feel integrated in the church irrespective of their social, political, or economic status, and to feel free to make their contributions as church members in terms of ideas, in terms of innovativeness, in terms of service, just to mention but a few. Category number 2 is what we call challenger safety. My listener, a challenger is a person who challenges. In the church, there are people who will challenge the status quo of how things are in the church. Challenger safety satisfies the members' need to make things better. So these people don't challenge the status quo in the church to make it worse. No, it is for them an opportunity to bring more and better changes for the growth of the church. Church members, therefore, feel safe to speak up and challenge the status quo when they think there is an opportunity to change or improve. Remember, church is an organization. It grows and it cannot remain conservative. We are living in a changing world, and therefore some of the conservative ways of doing things will always be challenged by the upcoming generation. So when church leaders feel insecure, when the status quo of the church is challenged, I can assure you this is one reason why churches stagnate, why churches don't grow. Now, Jesus had many challenges in his time. Some were within the ministry, others were from outside. But despite all these challenges, Jesus engaged all of them in dialogue in a peaceful and healthy way. For example, read Mark 11 and verse 28. Jesus' authority was challenged. So church members will also challenge the status quo. Now, just like the way Jesus was being challenged by people. For example, in that verse I have given, they asked him, "What gives you the right to do these things? Who told you that you could do this?" You can imagine such a question, and you are the leader of the church, and there's a member challenging you the way you are doing things. Remember, being a leader doesn't mean you cannot make a mistake or make a wrong decision. And therefore, you need to have a big heart like Jesus to accommodate challenges. Now, as a leader, therefore, you should make it safe for church members to challenge the church status quo. You should create an environment where members speak up freely without fear of intimidation. You should allow members to express their ideas. You should allow the members of the church to identify changes that probably can make the organization better, or even allow them to expose problems and challenges they have perceived that are hindering the growth of the organization. Let me tell you, challenges are very important, and sometimes they are the people who help the church to grow, because when they challenge the status quo, they trigger changes and better changes, and this makes the church to grow. Now, category of safety number 3, we call it learners' safety. Now, learners' safety satisfies the member's need to learn and grow. not that one, to learn and grow. The church members under this category of safety, they feel safe to exchange in the learning process by asking questions, giving and receiving feedback, experimenting, and sometimes making mistakes. Now, if you read in the book of Luke chapter 11 and verse 1 day, Jesus was praying in a certain place. And when he had finished praying, one of his disciples said to him, Lord, teach us to pray, just as John taught his disciples. What we learn from this statement, that Jesus had created an environment where the disciples could exchange in the process of learning and also experiment what they are learning. In this case, they did not know how to pray. So in this case, we can also learn as readers. A church should be a place whereby we allow the members to interact in the learning process and probably ask questions where they need clarification or more information, give and receive feedback concerning the services they are receiving as members of the church, or even experiment, and where they make mistakes, they should not feel shy or embarrassed for such mistakes, because we learn through mistakes. As a reader, learn to encourage people to learn through their mistakes so that they can grow. And this is very illustrated again by the same incident I had given earlier, recorded in Mark 9 and verse 28, where the disciples were feeling safe to find out from their leader, Jesus Christ, who was also their trainer, why they failed in their mission of casting out demons in that demon-possessed boy. And when the Bible says that when they came back into the house, his disciples began questioning him privately. Why could we not drive it out? Now, one thing you'll notice that many church leaders, they feel hurt and disturbed when they are asked questions by their church members. But if they create a psychological safety environment, then the members of the church will feel free and safe to discover, to ask questions, to experiment in various activities. And in fact, this is what creates innovativeness in the church. They will also learn from their mistakes, and they will also look for new opportunities to exploit for the growth of the church. Therefore, that is a very good illustration. Then category number 4, we call this contributor safety. Contributor safety, they are also referred to as collaborators safety. Now, contributors safety satisfies the need of the church members to make a difference. Note, to make a difference. Church members, therefore, feel free and safe to use their skills, abilities, spiritual gifts, talents, professionalism to make meaningful contributions as collaborators in the church. When you go to a church where people don't serve using their skills and abilities and their spiritual gifts and talents. They sit down and just follow things. Then it tells you that there is no psychological safety. And that is why leaders in the church should make it safe for the members to engage in an unconstrained way in the church activities, to interact with the leaders and other church members freely, to maintain an open dialogue, and to foster and engage in constructive debates. Church leaders must keep in mind the following: that to create an environment of psychological safety, church leaders must invest in strengthening the quality of dialogue among the members. This is the only possible way of creating an environment of psychological safety. They should also embrace servant leadership, preferably in the upcoming videos. This is a topic I will focus on, and therefore I want to encourage you to keep on following. Now, when there is psychological safety in the church, there are several gains. One, members feel comfortable being themselves. There's a feeling of freedom and ownership. The church climate is characterized by interpersonal trust and a climate of respect. 3, the church members feel free to collaborate and safe to take risks, which ultimately enables them to implement rapid innovation for accelerated growth and expansion. In conclusion, my listener, these are my humble advices to the church leaders. Now, point number 1, embrace psychological safety as a priority in improving church leadership for accelerated growth. 2, create a space for new ideas, and therefore encourage members to be more innovative. 3, encourage church members to speak up. That open dialogue is very, very important. Then number 4, be open-minded, compassionate, and empathetic. When a member of your church is courageous to say something challenging the church status quo, you should not feel intimidated. They should be encouraged. Have an open mind. Point number 5, promote dialogue and productive debate and work to resolve conflicts in the church in a productive way. My listener, I'm sure you have gained valuable insight on how to grow your church by creating an environment of psychological safety. I would like to share with you another inspiring and empowering video. But before I do it, kindly remember to subscribe to my YouTube account to ensure you don't miss other upcoming videos. My listener, I would appreciate if you share this video with a friend. turn to your phone or your computer in my YouTube account, search for another empowering video to listen. Thank you and be blessed.